Welcome to Payne on Politics, a podcast where host Dr. Gregory Payne of Emerson College sits down with fellow experts to discuss the current state of politics, public opinion, and global affairs. In a world growing increasingly complex, communication and critical thinking is key. This only makes the Emerson motto, expression necessary to evolution, more true.
Hello, this is Gregory Payne, the Chair of Communication Studies and co-director of the Emerson Blanquerita Center for Global Communication, for another episode of Payne on Politics. Today I have one of our brightest stars who's joined us a couple of years ago from Howard, and that is Sharifa Simon-Roberts. Sharifa, welcome to Payne on Politics.
Thank you, Dr. Payne.
Now, when I say Sharifa, first of all, what I would say is I'm thinking of all these activities that you're involved in. You have Oscar Talks coming up with Professor Owen Eagan. Can you tell us a little bit about what Oscar Talks is all about?
Sure. Oscar Talk, which was started by Owen. This is the 8th annual edition of it, and it looks at different things. First, he has a staple panel called Oscar Buzz, which seeks to understand the Oscar races, top contenders, things like that. And then each year there's a different panel that accompanies that. Last year we looked at the influence of social justice movies, which was based on research that we're conducting. And this year, given the importance of representation throughout the movies, not just this year but in general, our second panel is entitled Let's Talk About Representation. So we try as much as possible to cover different issues that pertain to Hollywood and pertain to the movie industry.
Well, you know, I have a friend of mine who's on usually there is Gil Robertson. And of course, he's very impressed with what Owen and you have done. He said the other night when I talked to him that he was looking forward to you being out in LA. So it will be exciting. One thing I would say, though, is as we are having, of course, the spring break, you're just not going to Hollywood, even though you've been Hollywood material for years. You're using that as a stopover because you're going after that to where?
I'm going to Tokyo with the forensics team.
She is going to, so you are a global diplomat.
I like this title, yes.
Right.
That's my official title from now on.
So with Professor Dion Hawkins,
Yes.
You're taking the Emerson forensics team, which is well known for its prowess in forensics and oral presentations, debate, etc. So you're heading to Tokyo. We're hoping that when you're there, you're going to see Dr. Iwasaki, of course, who gave us money for the Iwasaki Library. If you're listening, Shu, to this, you have to see Sharifa, because she is the future of Emerson College. But if we pull back for a moment, you also, one thing that I was very impressed by at the Global Summit, when we had Bob Woodward and we were at the Watergate Hotel, you brought some of your colleagues and the dean from Howard. Now, what is the expression when you see someone from Howard? What do you do?
HU? You know?
Well, I know that there are a lot of good people from HU there. So can you tell us a little bit about your panel?
The panel at the Global Summit, we were fortunate enough to have that connection between Emerson and Howard furthered. And so we had Dean Gracie Lawson Borders, who's the Dean of the School of Communication at Howard University. And we were able to get, I'm fortunate in the sense that one of my colleagues from Howard University, who was in my cohort, and we had written a book chapter together, Dr. Brittany Gregory, she joined the panel and was to talk about the importance of storytelling and diversity in storytelling. And for me, it was yet another way in which that Emerson-Howard collaboration, we saw an opportunity for that to shine. And it just feels so good. It felt so good going back to DC, going back and connecting with those people, and in a sense in a new area. And we were also joined by some current Howard students, and my understanding is that they thoroughly enjoyed it because they were able to see academics on display, yes, but they were able to also hear from practitioners, and it was a good opportunity to network, not only with people from Emerson, but because it was a global summit, we had people from different parts join us, and so that was an apt opportunity for them to make connections.
Well, you know, we're very happy, of course, to have done the summit, the Center for Global Communication with Emerson Polling. You and Vincent were just wonderful to try to keep everybody together with regard to the pre-summit as well as down in D.C. What do you think is the secret sauce that allows you to take all these, I would say, prima donna academics as well as others and be able to get them together in a schedule that works?
I think it's the the fact that there's a breadth of topics that we can discuss. Communication is an interdisciplinary field, so that we're able to attract people from different areas, and the fact that we want to have conversations and further dialogue. I think people want their voices, but they also want to hear from other people with different viewpoints. So the fact that we provide that space offers, or is an incentive for people to participate in events like the pre-summit and like the global summit.
Now, I know when we talk about Howard, the first time I met you, Spencer and I were down at Howard, and all of a sudden you were there. I looked at that picture the other day. It is amazing in terms of storytelling, how it began with that meeting, and now you're an assistant professor at Emerson.
I am. One of the delights of my life right now is being in the position that I am. I've always said I'm open to opportunity, so when the opportunity presented itself for me to become a part of Emerson, you'll warmly welcome me, and that's not something I can ever take for granted, because I do fully recognize the importance of not just fitting in where you work, but a sense of belonging, and that's truly what I feel being part of this department. There's a strong sense of belonging, and so once opportunities continue to present themselves, I tend to say yes, because you never know where they can take you. Those are some delightful moments. I look back and I reflect on those moments, and I'm truly grateful for them.
Well, I'm very happy because every time I say something, you absolutely do say yes. Of course, the associate chair, Jane Pierce-Saulnier, will look at you and just say, run to the elevator, get in, because he's going to have you doing something else. One of those something else's was Rosarito this last summer. You came down with your mother. I might add that her mother is an attorney, so she was going to handle any legal issues. I'm just kidding if you were there. What was it like for you in Rosarito?
Refreshing, rejuvenating, energizing. And I say that because it was toward the end of the break, but I had been working quite a bit throughout summer. So it was that place for me to go and recharge. But apart from that, seeing students in action, the level of enthusiasm, the engagement that students were able to display, and also to be able to learn a whole lot, not just in a classroom, but being immersed in a completely different environment. I thought it provided such deeply enriching experiences for students.
Well, a part of that particular program in terms of the foundation as well as the Global Summit was, of course, our co-worker here is Shepard Vargos. So we want to give kudos to Shepard as being our Renaissance, all about everything person.
Yeah.
One thing I was going to ask you, we also, of course, look at Celebrity Spectacle. We were looking at the Rihanna halftime concert. And last night in my class, I showed Beyonce in 2016, when, of course, there was a little bit of the Black Panther theme that was going on. I think just for me, and this is something we haven't talked about, as you have probably deliberated a little bit more on Rihanna's halftime concert, what is your takeaway?
Just before I give you my takeaway, I do want to make sure that I mention Shepard gets things done. He's a get it done person.
You know, I think that's where Nike got the motto. Just do it, okay?
Shepard is the inspiration. We are stating it here.
You know, when we talk about Shepard, we get off track, but if I lasso you back into...
It's a Rihanna.
Yes.
The reviews that are coming out are very positive, and I'm happy for her. If I'm not mistaken, she is the first woman who's pregnant who performed at the Super Bowl, and for me it was very symbolic, her approach, the fact that she was on these beams that seemed to be suspended and she was taking things to new heights. It was not the hardcore energetic performance of Beyonce that you just mentioned, but I still think she delivered something that will remain something that very powerful, and people will remember, because that's where people are like, oh, she's pregnant, and then her spokesperson later confirmed it. I think it was a great opportunity for people to see her catalog, how much work she has produced, how much music she has produced over the years, and it was also an opportunity for her to cement herself as an icon, because she has achieved so many great things over the years. This was a place to truly cement herself. I personally was expecting more energy, because in the press conference leading up to it, she talked about the Caribbean culture on display, and I'm from the Caribbean. I really was expecting a time. I do understand, now that I know she was pregnant, I can understand why they took the approach they did, as opposed to what I had envisioned.
Well, I think what it does prove is the show goes on, and she was a resilient performer in terms of that. So that's very interesting. It's very clear, Sharifa, when you're here in the office, which some people say is somewhat frightening because you're surrounded by events. I'm a big fan of celebrity spectacle, and I know with regard to your media expertise, you take that into consideration. How important do you think celebrity spectacle is in terms of communicating and resonating with particular audiences?
I think it's essential because a lot of what people are consuming today comes from media content. And if we think about the role of celebrities in terms of raising awareness of certain issues, in terms of that parasocial connection that people develop when it comes to celebrities, I think that's a huge deal. And so if we're able to dissect different events that come under the category of celebrity spectacle, we gain greater insights into society at large.
Okay, we've talked a little bit about Sharifa, the person who's interacting in the outside world, heading to Tokyo, Los Angeles. In terms of your academic work, I know you have been doing some writing, sometimes alone, sometimes with collaboration with your colleagues. What are some of your favorite projects that you're working on now?
You mentioned colleagues, and I want to make sure that I'm emphasizing how much I enjoy working with people in this department, and in terms of teaching collaborations, and then in terms of research collaboration. So Dion Hawkins and you mentioned Dion in the context of the forensics coach. So he and I have been working on some research, in particular research related to the Black community. I identify as Black, Dion identifies as Black. So we have that shared interest, and then we have that shared identity, I would say, or that identity marker we both share. And we also have shared interest in pop culture. And so we have been able to look at Back That Thing Up. And that came out in ABS. I believe that was earlier on this year. Yes, that was earlier on this year. And we're working on other research that looks at the intersection of the Black community, pop culture, and in particular at this moment, COVID-19 and vaccination. So that's where we are right now. So I've had some great working relationships and the opportunity to expand myself intellectually and to grow.
Terrific. Now, in terms of Emerson, you've been here and you know it is a special place. You know, we talk about it being the first school of communication. You have been a delight to have as a colleague, and of course I come in and ask you advice many, many times, which is why I think we can keep things moving in the right direction because of your sage advice. How would you describe Emerson? If someone is thinking about coming to Emerson, what do you think is the secret or the special sauce besides it being Sharifa? What else adds to that Velcro to bring them to Emerson?
For me, I feel, and I mentioned this before, the sense of belonging. I know that I can show up as myself and feel welcome. I can talk without holding back my tongue about issues that affect me and that affects Trinidad and Tobago, for example. I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. I'm proud of that. And so even in conversations, today in class, for example, I mentioned, I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, and this is how my upbringing there has influenced my perspective or my view on a particular topic. And I would also add the opportunity for global engagement. That was, and I mentioned this to you earlier, that was particularly important for me as someone who's not from the United States. I wanted to make sure that I was engaging with places outside of the United States, and this the college provides the opportunity for me to do so in a way that I feel is meaningful and engaging and enriching to me.
Well, when I think of you, one thing that I like is you're spontaneous. If I mention something, there's an opportunity to teach in Blanquerna, in Barcelona, or Mexico, you usually don't deliberate long. You just say, yes, I can do that. So you would see yourself as a global diplomat.
I do. You told me always keep a suitcase packed, so I've taken that piece of advice.
Well, what I would say is I cannot wait till once again we go to Logan, and who knows where we're going next.
I know.
But it's going to be soon. So thank you, Professor Sharifa Simon-Roberts. Please tell your mother that if she goes again to Mexico, I will take the right road to the Boys and Girls Club rather than scaling the mountain.
It wouldn't be as memorable, Dr. Payne, so I think we should have a do-over if you're okay with that.
So if any of you want to know more about that trip, just tune in on Payne on Politics and we'll show you the pictures. Take care. Thanks again, Sharifa.
Thank you. My pleasure. And you're welcome, Dr. Payne.
Bye-bye.